Hi everyone. So for this recording, what I'm going to do is show you how to set up a button and then program that button to go to a specific frame label, a specific place on your timeline there in order to view additional content. So currently what I have here is just a little scene with a little drawn really roughly and little fishies floating around. If I hit the return key, you'll see the little fish floats over to the other side here, and the little fish floats up to the top, and so on. And so it's just kind of a quick little scene that has a little bit of motion on it. And then what I'm going to do is put on 3 buttons on here, and then I'm just going to program the buttons to go from this point to somewhere else up here on the timeline, which I'll talk about as I walk through this. So the first thing I'll do is just go ahead and create the buttons. So to create a button, very simply, what you do is just go up to your insert up here at the top, insert menu, and then go down to new symbol. Underneath new symbol, you have a choice of 3 things: a button, a movie clip, or a graphic. And in this case, we're going to make a button. Always name your buttons. Always name everything on the screen. And especially as you start writing your action script, everything has to have a name. Your buttons have to have a name. Your labels have to have a name. Your instances that you place on the stage have to have names, or the programming won't work. So just get in the habit of naming everything. For this symbol up here, what I always do as well is ensure that I name kind of things similarly, because your library ends up storing things in there in alphabetical order. So I'm going to name this BTN. All of my buttons I'll just start with like BTN or BUT. Again, the name is random. It's up to you. You can name it whatever you want to name it. But I do it this way so that I can keep everything organized. So it's going to be BTN underscore, let's say, something like home. All right, and then I'll say OK. And once you say OK and you create a button, automatically it's going to go to your button screen. So you'll see right here, over here on the upper left side, you'll see that this is kind of showing you where you are located inside this document. So currently I'm located on my button, and then the button, although it hasn't been placed there, it is a part of my first scene. Up here at the top, if you look here, this is all of the options for your button, and you have to have this whole thing kind of filled in here. You can't just make a button and then not do your over, down, and hit area. You have to have everything within this program in order to be able to have the button actually function. So I'm just going to get my square here, because we're just going to do this kind of quickly. We're making some real rough buttons, nothing, artistic or fantastic here that we're going to do. I'm just choosing a color, and I'm just going to draw a square here. That's going to be one of my buttons. Now you can create buttons in other applications if you want some fancy button, or you want some object drawn, or you want to put on some more options like a glass, making some kind of a glass button that you might want to build that in Photoshop, and then you can bring those in here and place them on these areas up here. All right, for my over, I'm just going to click there and hit my F6 or insert keyframe. And I'm going through this assuming that you have kind of already viewed some of the introductory videos on some of these basics, which are your keyframes and your frames, and how to kind of create motions and so on, so that you understand the difference between keyframes, frames, and then blank frames. And then I'm going back in here for my down. I'm going to go ahead and hit F6 again, because that just copies over from my over whatever was on my over, because that has a keyframe on it. So that's just copying the same information over onto my down. And then my hit stage, I need it to be kind of the same as this for the hit. And then very quickly, I'm just going to put text over here so that it reads home, so that we know that that's kind of what it is. So I just went in here and put a keyframe on there. I'm going to kind of name this. Good idea to name everything. I'm just going to say square on here. Then I'm going to do a new layer. And this is going to be my text. And then on for my text, you see that has a blank frame on it right now. So for my text, I'm just going to get my type tool. And I'm going to go ahead and type on here, home. And I'll resize it a little bit here. It's a little big so that it fits in that space. And line it up here. And then I'm going to do the same here. I'm just going to go to over and I'll change the color. So I'm hitting F6. I'll make this white so it changes, or that kind of off yellow that I had there. And then my down and my hit are fine. This is just a frame, so it carries that information all the way over there. And so I'm good to go. So this is my up, over, down, hit. And that's what it looks like as I drag my playhead back and forth. You can see how that button changes. I'm going to go back to my main stage just by clicking here on my scene 1. And then I'm going to go into my library, and you'll see that there's my button, home. And I'm going to go ahead and drag that button right here onto the stage. Now, again, I'm just making some quick little buttons here, so it's not going to be designed that well, but it's not the point of this. I'm trying to teach you how to kind of put buttons on the stage, and then at the same time, have them programmed to go to a frame label so you can see how the action script works. All right, next I'm going to make copies of these buttons so I don't have to go in and repeat the same thing, and then my buttons all look the same. So I'm going into my library. I have my buttons selected right here in my library. And then I'm going to go up here to my drop-down panel and choose duplicate. This one I'll call button, and let's say squid. So we'll just name a couple different fishies here. And then I'll go in and duplicate that again. And this one's going to be called button halibut. And I'll do one more. And we'll call this one duplicate. We'll call this one button swordfish, maybe. All right. Kind of just making those up as I go along. Then what I have to do is kind of open each one of these up and change them so you can see that they're different. I just have to change my text. So I just double clicked on the BTN halibut from my library there. That brings it up here. I can tell that that's where I'm at because it says BTN halibut. And then I'll just go ahead in here and change the name to halibut. All right. And then I'm going to go to my over and change that to halibut. And then I'll open up my squid. And I'm going to go in and do the same thing with my squid. I'm going to change that to squid. And then my over, I'll go ahead and change that to squid. And my last one was that swordfish. So I'm going to open that up and go ahead and type in swordfish. Probably won't fit on here. But again, we're just doing kind of a rough little job here. So swordfish. All right. I'm going to just go and check these quick. You can see them up here in your library window. So I'm just clicking on halibut, my home button, my squid, and my swordfish. So they're all right there. I'll go back to my scene, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull out each one of these buttons from my library and place them on the stage. There's my squid, and you can go in, and align these with the line and line them up real pretty if you want. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to spend the time doing it. Again, I'm just trying to show you how to program things to go from one place to another. All right, now the other thing I just noticed, which is a huge no-no, and I should have pointed this out ahead of time so as to not confuse you. I'm going to select all of these. So I'm clicking on my top button, the home. Then I'm holding down my command key. I'm going to hit, or my shift key, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to go ahead and click my home, halibut, squid, and swordfish. So I have them all copied. I'm going to cut them. I've got them all selected there. I'm going to cut them, Command X. And then I'm going to create a whole new layer here. I want my buttons all on their own layer. So when you're dragging them out and putting them on your timeline here, just make sure you put them on your own layer, okay? So I'm going to just go ahead and paste them in place, Command-Shift-V, and now they're all back there and they're on their own timeline, which is what I needed. All right, the next thing I want to do here is I want to go ahead and start kind of the whole process to get these programmed to go to a certain spot. If you go in here and you see some of these movie clips that are created, I'm going in and kind of clicking on some of these. You've got like Reefs and Round and Start Rollover and Title and so on. So you got a couple of little movie clips in there. I'm going to create some layers here that I'm going to end up putting on. That one is going to be used for my frame labels, one will be used for my content, and then the last one is going to be for all of our actions. So 3 more layers I'm putting in here. 1, 2, 3. You just do that by clicking right here. I'm going to name them. This is going to be frame labels. And I'm doing this with what we call frame labels as opposed to frames. I'll explain that when I build the labels here in a second. But I always encourage everybody to use frame labels instead of going in and using just programming things to go to a specific frame. Let me finish here with this. We did 3 layers, frame labels, then content, and then a label for your actions, okay? Frame labels. So what I want to do here is we're going to go in and actually give specific frames in here a name. And then when we do the programming, we'll set our program, the action script, to specifically go to that frame label, not going over to a specific number of a frame. So if you do just a number of a frame, the problem with that is if you say in your script, go to and play frame 20, let's say. Well, what happens if you extend all of this, say some of your motion here, or for some reason you've got to move the content that you have on frame 20 down to like 65 now or something? Well, because you have that program to go to that specific frame number, which was number 20, and now you've moved it down to 65, you have to go into all of your code and change all of that information. So what we do instead of programming things to go to a specific frame is we go in and tell it to go to a specific label, and then we name those frames with those specific labels. All right, so in other words, what you'll do is I'm going to kind of start here at about frame, it doesn't really matter because it's kind of going, about 30 frames here. And for content and so on that I want to put on here, that's going to be fine. So I'm going to go to start with my home base here, and I'm on my frame labels layer right here. That's where I'm at. And I'm going to go up here and click on that blank frame, that blank keyframe that's sitting right here on my frame 1 of my frame label. And I'm going to go ahead and name that in my properties panel. So go over to my properties panel right here. And you see where it says label and then it says name. I'm going to call that home. So that'll be my home label. I'm just going to hit enter. And now you'll see you get a little red flag, and then you get the word home. Then I'm going to go to about frame 10. Now it doesn't matter. You can put, label every single frame here at the beginning if you wanted to do that and put your content that way. But I always spread them out so that I can read my label and I can kind of see a little more what I'm doing, and I can spread out my content a little bit. And if I have to move things around, it's not going to be a big deal because I've got all of those labels named. Sorry, my mouse is a little fast here, so it keeps scrolling my time frame down there. All right, so right here, again, I'm going to enter a blank keyframe. So you can't do any labeling, or you can't put any content. You can't do anything on something that's just a frame like this. So I need to insert here a blank keyframe. So I'm going to right click and just say insert blank keyframe, or you can do control click, insert blank keyframe, or you can go up to your bar up at the top here and say insert blank keyframe. Either way, that would be under your insert timeline and then blank keyframe. So that's right click or control click or your menu bar to insert the blank keyframe. Now I'm going to label that. So this one I'm going to call halibut. And it's a good idea that the content that you're going to have on that specific frame, that's kind of what you name it. And that's just for your own kind of understanding or peace of mind, or being able to kind of understand where you're at or where you're going. Just be consistent with your naming conventions. Then I'm going to go here to right after, the word halibut, do a right click and go up to insert blank keyframe. And then in here, this one is going to be called squid. And then I'll do my last one, which will be swordfish. So I'm just going to go a little bit further up here, say insert blank keyframe. And then this is going to be swordfish. Remember, once again, you can't label anything or put in any information here or add content to anything if you don't have a blank frame there, or some kind of frame like a keyframe or something that you've brought over. All right. Notice that the word swordfish is cut off. That's just because this is where this kind of ends. So I'm just going to pull these out. You can do that too. I like doing that so that I can kind of read things and make sure that everything's there. So I did that just by selecting all of these frames and then dragging them down, and that just extended the timeline a little bit more. All right, so we have all of our frame labels here. Now the next step is I'm going to put content on all of these so that when we actually click on the buttons, as soon as we program these, that you can see that it's actually functioning. So normally what you would do is say over halibut, and you guys will do this with whatever content you're going to put on your short little website there that you're going to be creating. You would put in here, maybe I would have a story about halibut. So I would type in here, or I'd make a movie clip, which that's the best way to do it, is kind of just make a movie clip and then type the information inside the movie clip and place the movie clip on here. I'll do that with one of these, and then the others I'll just go ahead and type some information on it. So starting with my home, I'm going to click on that blank keyframe, get my type tool, and then I'm just going to type real big in here, home. And that's just so that, again, I'm just kind of doing this so that when you click and you go to a certain area, you know that you have actually, that this is actually working, that it just went to the home base there. All right. All right. Next, I'm going to click right on above where my blank keyframe is for halibut. I'm going right up above there, doing a right click, saying insert blank keyframe. And then this is going to be halibut. Halibut. All right, and then for my next one, I'm going to do my squid. Once again, I'm going to put my content right up above here. And then, like I keep saying, is you can't put any content unless you say insert blank keyframe or you have a keyframe. So either a keyframe or a blank keyframe. That's the only place that you can put content, all right? So I'm going to go in and say squid. Squid. All right, there we go. Squid. And then the last one I will do, like I said, I was going to do a movie clip. First, I'll do my insert blank keyframe. And then I'm going to go up and say to insert new symbol. Spaced for a second what I was doing there. All right, so I'm going to go up and say insert new symbol. This is going to be a movie clip. And I'm going to call this swordfish. And that opens up that swordfish movie clip, and then you'll see that it's also over here in your library, swordfish. And then on here, I'm going to go ahead and type, swordfish. And I'll just say something like they are called swordfish because they have a nose like a sword. All right, so that's my little movie clip there. I don't know where all my other text went. Hang on. All right, let me space this here correctly. I don't know why this is being goofy for me here, but it should fit in that box okay. And I'll make it a little smaller. Maybe that'll help. That's interesting that it's coming in like it is, that it's showing me on the screen like this. I don't know why that is. But I'll bring it in like this. It's kind of goofy because when I click on it, it's not like that. But anyway, we'll move on. So the main point with this is to create that movie clip. Let's see how it comes in when I bring it in on the other side. All right, so I'm going to go into my scene 1, and then with this blank keyframe selected under swordfish, I'm going to go ahead to my library and grab that movie clip and plop it here on the stage, and it is coming in, like that, but that's okay. That's something I would deal with later. For this lesson that I'm kind of showing you here, it's more about just showing you that you can create this movie clip, go ahead and put it on the stage, and then again, this when that button is clicked, it's going to go to that frame. All right, lastly, it's just going to go ahead and be programming your buttons. So now, what you do is you put your content on, make sure you build all of your content, you get it on the stage, then go back to your actions panel there on frame 1. Select your home button here, and then we'll go ahead and get our actions panel up. So go up to Window, Actions, and then inside our actions panel, this is where we go in and program it. So once you have it selected, over here on this side is snippets. So we would want to click on your code snippets panel there. Just click on that button and your snippets are going to come up. Now, when you go in and you do your action script and also your HTML5 canvas, so your next assignment next week is going to be on HTML5 canvas. So then you would go into your HTML5 canvas snippets and kind of look at the difference. This is where you would put your actions or your timeline navigation from this panel here. You'll notice when you get in here is that HTML5 Canvas is a little more limited because, again, this can be viewed on mobile devices. Your action script, can be viewed on desktop. It's for gaming, that kind of thing. And so you have a lot more options here for being able to generate various movements with your cursor or with your movies or clips that are playing, and how you hide objects and so on. So again, it's for kind of for gaming, whereas that's not the case with the HTML5 canvas. All right, make sure your button is selected. Now, the next thing you have to do, like I said, with all of these is naming. So under your properties panel with your button, your home button selected, you need to go in here and give it an instance name. So you see over here in your properties panel up in the upper right over there is a place for instance name. I'm going to click in there and I'm just going to call it btn underscore home. I'm going to go ahead and name the rest of these as well while I'm at it. So I'm clicking on my halibut. I'm going to name it btn underscore halibut. I'm clicking on squid. And I'm going to go in here and say btn underscore squid. And you can name, your instance name can be whatever you want it to be. The only thing that your instance name cannot be is the exact same thing as your frame labels over here. So you can't name this swordfish, okay? But otherwise, your buttons can be the same as like the button name. So that can be the same. All right, I'm going to click on my home button. I'm going into my snippets panel. And like I said in a couple emails, just let your snippets panel write this for you. Don't make this complicated. So you have actions under your action script. That's where you want to be. Action script folder in your snippets. Again, the snippets was right here. And then timeline navigation is what you want to open up. And here's where you have your go to frame and play or go to frame and stop. So I'm going to say click to go to frame and stop. So I'm double clicking on that. Then it will automatically go to the home as I put in the proper information here and stop. Okay? It says right up here when you do your code snippet, this is click to go to frame and stop. Clicking on the specified simple instance moves the playhead to the specified frame in the timeline and then can be used on the main timeline or on a movie clip timeline. Replace the number 5 with whatever frame you want it to go to. But like I said, what we're doing is we're actually going to go to the frame label. So I don't want to use 5 here. See how it says go to and stop at 5? I don't want it to go to and stop at 5. I want it to go to and stop at the frame label home. And because that's the name of something, it has to be in quotes. So I'm going to put in here, go to and stop at home. That's my frame label here. You can see that where my red flag is. It's called home. Now it's got to be spelled the same exact way. You can't use a capital letter here and a small letter here. That's not going to work. So home, H-O-M-E, small letters, because that's what I have here, all small letters. The other thing I'm going to point out here is that right at the beginning here is the name of your button. So it says btn underscore home. That's the instance name that I just gave this button. That's the name that was over here in your properties panel. I'll click on that again and show you. And there it is over there in the properties panel, button home. All right, I'm going to do all these buttons the same way. So I'm clicking on my halibut button over here on my timeline. I already named it, button halibut. I'm going to go to my snippets panel, double click on click to go to and stop at frame. And then I'm going to change down here. So it's just going to add it onto your code. Here's your button home. And actually what I'm going to do, what I always do is I get rid of all of this instructions because it kind of clutters up my actions window and I don't need it there. And then down here, I'm going to get rid of this as well, but you may want to use that to read and to make sure that you're doing the right thing and you're changing the right thing. Once again, we did frame labels. So I'm going to put on here halibut, and I'm just going to make sure that I spell it exactly the same way that I spelled it up on my timeline here under my frame label, halibut. All right, next one. I'm going to click on squid. I already have it named up here in my button up here. The instance name is button squid. I'm going to go to my snippets, double click on click to go to frame and stop. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And then I'm going to highlight this. And I'm going to put in here squid. So make sure you put it in quotes. And there's my squid up here, frame label squid and squid. All right, lastly is my swordfish. Click here. Double click on click to go to frame and stop. And in here is, in quotes, swordfish. All right, and that's that. So now everything's labeled. Everything is programmed to go. Here's your button name. Remember, that's what we called our instance name. Button squid, button swordfish, BTN, BTN, BTN. And then everything is going to the proper frame label. Swordfish is going to swordfish and so on. All right, the last thing we want to do, but before I do that, I'm going to kind of play this and show you that we're going to have kind of an issue here. This is, I'm going to close my snippets here. But when I play this, which is command return, that it's going to come up, but it's just going to play, 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 play. So it's playing through all of my frames, and it just keeps going, going, going. Well, and so then, you know, obviously my buttons don't work because it's just going to keep playing. Well, the reason for that is because I have an issue with, well, I've got two issues here because I see I have a warning label there. But I have one issue, which is I don't have a stop at the beginning. So I need to put my stop in there, which is just written stop. You can also pull that up from your snippets if you want. But it's stop with your left and right parentheses and then a semicolon. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go ahead and play again, and you'll see that I've got kind of this same error here. Now, the great thing with Flash is that it is going to come up and tell you where your errors might be. And all you have to do is kind of look at this and see that this says that I have, it'll tell you specifically where it is, where the frame is, where the problem is. So take the time to read these now when you get an error. And if you have any issues with it and you can't sort through the error, please email me and ask me. And at the same time, you can always send me your file. Just zip it and send it to me. And so I can look at it and fix it for you. I'll be happy to do that. So don't struggle with it, you know. If you have a problem, don't hesitate to send it to me. All right, here it says, anyway, duplicate label in scene 1, which is where we are. And it's on the frame labels layer, and it's frame 35. So it means that I have 2 swordfish labels there is kind of what it's telling me. So I'm going to go ahead in there to my timeline and check that out. And you see that I actually do have 2 frame labels with swordfish. So I'm going to click on this, and I can see over here I have swordfish, and then I got swordfish here. Not sure when that happened, but I'm just going to go ahead and take that out of there. So I just highlighted that and deleted it. Now I don't have that problem. All right, I'm going to close my actions. And then you'll see that I can go ahead and click through this and it'll play. So I can go to my halibut. There's halibut. I can go to squid. There's my squid. I can go to swordfish. There's my swordfish movie clip that I placed on there. And then here's my home. So home, halibut, squid, swordfish, they all work. They're all done with frame labels. It functions. And this is basically, for you guys, the basics of what, you know, I want out of out of the class or out of this first assignment. So you just need to have some kind of a scene. And I'm really interested in kind of your layout, and having a nice, clean looking layout for what the project's going to be. That it's, whatever. I mean, it could even be something like this, just some kind of a simple little scene that you've drawn, and then you've got some information. I mean, it needs to come to some information there at any rate. Yeah, so that's it. Email me if you have questions, if there's something with this that you don't understand. And hopefully this will help you out.